We can talk about education here. It is one part of overall life, and getting money for school districts does mean looking at everything in the state.
Well, if Sue got the unpopular question, then I guess Jane got the popular question. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think anything with the, unfunded mandates are something that's always a problem. I think it's easy to say you should do something and you should find a way to pay for it. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually. But it doesn't work that way, and you guys end up paying that price. So, and as far as mandates in general, my guess is if something has come down as a mandate, you've probably already figured out if it's actually a good idea or not. And I believe that whatever reforms can be done from the state level to allow the local school boards the greatest possible flexibility with what they need to do, that's what I'm in favor of. I mean, the question I think should always be asked, what does this actually add to the classroom? What does this actually add to a child's education? And I would assume that the local school boards are going to be able to answer that question a lot quicker than you're going to get it through the heads of a bunch of people in St. Paul. So, thank you.
I think it's important to have a mix of the federal, state, and local. That too much of one doesn't work, because you get too much power, like the No Child Left Behind. My daughter would come home, my oldest, and she'd be complaining about it, and now the local can't do anything. Their hands are tied, and it just doesn't work. I really don't like No Child Left Behind. She attributes it to a lot of her failures and having trouble in school. My other daughter, who was younger, I think it wasn't so hard on her, but it's hard on some kids, and I think you have to have a good mix of the three different.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the next quick question because I just want a yes or no answer from this. Good luck. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah, you don't get to touch the microphone on this. I heard a lot about local control in that last question. You're going to ask the question, aren't you? Yeah, I might be falling under, or topping Sue on the unpopular question, but you talked about local control, and just yes or no if you support levy authority for school boards. I'm going to start here with Mr. Starr.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
I don't know enough to make my decision yet.
Yes.
You're asking whether the school board should have the authority to do a levy.
Correct. Not the levy that we're talking about here, where it's still voter approved, but other levy authority.
Levy authority.
We do not have that. We're the only ones in government that does not.
Pardon?
Right, without voter approval.
Without voter approval. I don't know. I'd have to look at it. It would depend on what it's for and how it's used.
No. I kind of think no, but it's not just a yes or no question, but I'll leave it at that.
Boy, that's a loaded question. But yes, I would.
Thank you. All right, next, Shane. You ready for your question? Sure, we have about a half an hour left. I'll make mine short. Okay.
Mine will. Yeah. I'll ask this question to anybody that wants to answer it, and when I ask this question, it's a two-part question. And the first part of it is, when I put my business owner hat on, that we pay 8 separate taxes into the state. Okay, so with that hat on, I'm going to say, do you believe that the way that the state collects income tax, that system is broken, and are you prepared to be a part to fix it? And I'm not talking a Band-Aid, but I'm talking an overhaul. And then the second part of the question, when I put my school board member hat on, do you believe the funding formula that you give us is broken, and are you prepared to completely overhaul it?
Boy, you know, how the state collects income tax, I mean, we could sit here for a long time. Now I know why Jim Abler left. You know, he did the same thing 2 years ago. You know, you have to be, when you go down to the legislature, you have to be open to any idea. You absolutely have to be open to any idea, no matter where it comes from. So not knowing enough about the taxes, and I'll be the first to admit it, I haven't sat on a tax committee, haven't been an elected official down there, so you would have to really, really pay attention to it and have an open mind, and if it's a good idea, okay. If it's a bad idea, tell them, no, I want to accept that. So that's the end of question one. Question two, I have been a huge advocate for the last 4 years since I really got into school funding to completely eliminate what they've done. We need to take the chessboard, wipe it clean, and start from scratch. And I am also an advocate of taking property taxes out of the school funding formula. We saw what happened since 2008 when Big Lake lost 15% of its tax base when homes went into foreclosure. So in the Constitution of the state, it says the state will fund schools 100%. All right, let's do it.
An agreement here for collecting income tax. I could not tell you all the different formulas. You're talking about corporate, probably individual, that kind of income tax collection.
No. What I guess I'm talking about is when you practice business, you will pay on just businesses, for example, not just sales tax, but waste management fee tax, septic tank taxes. You pay taxes, 8 different taxes to the state. And I can tell you that when we do all the paperwork on it, we know it's a joke for the state, and whoever's on the other end is not coming out good.
Right. And something like that, I agree that we'll need more information. I have no idea what all we have to pay as a business owner. That's a learning curve for me. The state formula, I do know how ugly that one is. When I was on the school board, I made the January meeting for school board members in St. Paul when they came back with the briefing for Governor Pawlenty on school formula. And I still remember the individual, his standing room only. He stood up and he said, well, the 12 of us, if we all went out on a boat, on a pontoon boat in Lake Minnetonka, only one of us would come back. Because even the group themselves had a hard time trying to come up with an idea for formula for school funding. And they worked on it for months and months. And he said it was very complex. And I've followed it for years as a school board member, as a sub-teacher now. It is complex. I do know there's some studies being done to try and come back with new formulas for it. I'm going to be a proposal of it. It is ugly. Federal, state, you have special ed, you have, you know, every group out there that needs extra money. It is ugly. And I've never, even as a treasurer, who's a treasurer here today? You are the treasurer, right? Even I, as a treasurer for our school board, sat down with me in our school district, hours on end, trying to get an idea. Where does this money come from and how is it divided? And it was ugly with a capital U. So yes, sir, in your question, take property tax out of it, funding formula overhaul, 100%. It will be a long term. It won't be overnight. It will be months and months of work with agreement from a lot of different people to make this happen. Yes, sir.
Shane, in regards to those 8 taxes, income being one of them, but the fee taxes and other things like that, probably the one that I think that could greatest benefit in regards to the issues you're talking about, as well as the school district, is the state general property tax. And that takes a great big huge chunk of your property tax capacity locally, and the state has no business doing that. The state has income, the state has sales, the state has other kinds of ways to have their revenue, but the local units of government, it is predominantly, and this is talking in a more global way, is the property tax. So the state needs to get out of that. And just to let you know that Kurt and I and others did vote to end that state general property tax, completely phase it out, and end that. But it was vetoed, and it was a bipartisan effort to send it to the governor. Then we had another, what we called a light one, that was vetoed as well. So we do try and do those things, and we'll go back and try again, because sometimes maybe with wording or times change, we'll go at it again. Sometimes ideas need to go back a few times before they settle in well. The issue on the funding formula, especially on the school district funding formula, that is just grossly broken. It is so hugely complex, broken up into pieces. That is one of those that, yes, just needs to be scrapped and start over from the basics that a student is a student no matter where they live. And they all have equal value, and especially now, things are spread out around the state. That's important. But the other thing is on the property taxes in general. If you don't have the school property taxes, and it's an idea to say, well, then all comes from the state, well, then how's it going to be paid for? So sometimes if you take it out of the left pocket, but take it out of the right pocket, you know, your taxpayers down here are all the same taxpayers. They pay federal taxes, state, county, local. That's all one pocket. So it's a real challenge sometimes. But the biggest thing is on the formula. Scrap it on the school thing and just start over.
Kind of like that question. Where are we planning? Where are we going with it? Income taxes for your business. Since I do business taxes sometimes, I try to avoid them because there's so many different levels of it. But as a tax preparer, I can tell you that I see taxes as a very big issue. I think our tax system is very much so broken. Businesses, even personal people, businesses aren't the only ones that have millions of different taxes. Every place you go nowadays, you hit fees, property tax, sales tax. You never know what something's actually going to cost you when you're all said and done. I'm actually for straight line income tax and get rid of all these different systems and make it easy on the business owners and every citizen. And that way we're all paying the fair share, which is approximately last year, I think 16.4% of our income on average. As for the school formula, from the little bit of it that I looked at, I wouldn't want to do it. It needs to be fixed. But we do have to, there are things, every student has a value, as I will agree with her on that part, but every student has a different value based on where they're at because of different expenses, different cost factors involved. School districts, you know, smaller school district, you still have to build a building, you don't have as many students, so when the state's funding, they need to keep that in mind. But otherwise, yeah, the formula has to be made a lot simpler. There's no reason for the ins and outs that they've got going right now.
Let's see, with the school formula, I think it is, when something is, I think it's too broken, and when something's too broken, like long time ago, you know, my car, it was completely broken. You can't fix something forever. So sometimes you need to start over. For business taxes, we have an antique store, and our taxes aren't too bad, but my dad had a subchapter S corporation, and I would take my taxes to some of the local tax offices, and they couldn't even do it. I think some of the rules are too complicated, and they need to be worked on.
Well, again, I guess it seems like the funding formula is not a very popular monster right now. But so I agree that it needs to be severely overhauled or replaced. There's again just how long it's been left in its current state without really being redone. I think is something that's indicative of how much it needs to be looked at. Taxes in general, I'm also very in favor of looking at tax reform measures. Not all taxes are created equal. I think we need to look at what activity is it hindering or what is it promoting, and tax policies is huge in that. So I think that I'm very open to any tax reforms. I think interesting to hear a tax preparer actually speak about tax reform, because I think anytime the cost of taxation is going into collection and compliance and everything else. That's really just a burden on businesses and individuals that isn't even realized on the revenue side anyway. So it's something that I think we all should be in favor of. Should I answer for Abler too? No.
I think you just did.